I planted some long beans a little while ago and they're sprouting nicely, so I need to have something for them to climb on when I put them in the garden. So I've decided to make some reciprocal towers from bamboo. I've got one, you can see it behind me, that was my first attempt, and I'm going to make another 2. First of all, I've got this bamboo pole here that I'm going to split. This is one of the ones that I've had soaking in the borax and boric acid, so it should be nice and insect resistant for me and will last a long time. So I'm going to split it up, I'm going to tidy it up, and I'll use these pieces to make the bulk of the tower. I'm also going to create a circle or a couple of circles of bamboo to help contain the structure of the tower as well. So I'll just set this up, and I've made myself a little bit of a jig here to help, and I will split it as evenly as possible. And now that I've split the bamboo, I'll give it a bit of a clean up. Cleaning the poles up like this takes off the stringy bits and makes them a bit tinier, a bit nicer to look at. Next I'll heat the piece of bamboo that I'm going to use to make the circle. With my charcoal really hot, I'm now going to just treat the bamboo that I want to use to make the circles for my reciprocal tower. This provides strength and ease of management to the structure. And heating the bamboo is the best way that I've found to get it to curve into a nice circular shape. It gets pretty hot, so I've decided to put some protection on the fingers to look after them. One of the key things in bending bamboo like this is to get the even thickness of the piece that you're bending as much as possible, just by shaving it down and working with it, especially in the areas where the internodes are, because these are generally thicker and stronger, so it makes them a little bit more difficult to bend. You don't want to be in a rush doing this, just take your time, do it gently. You'll find that the bamboo actually retains the heat incredibly well, and as you pass it over the fire, or your flame, your heat source, whatever you're using, you don't need to use charcoal of course, you can use gas or whatever you've got available to warm this up. And just as you spend a bit of time, it becomes more and more flexible and it can just bend into that nice circular shape. You might find that you've got to work with the areas where the internodes are, or areas that are a little bit thicker than others, then just give them a little bit more time over the heat. So now that I've got my circle, I've clamped it just to hold it, and I'll now tie it up with some string to make it a bit more permanent, or permanent enough to last at least one season. Hopefully it'll last a bit longer than that. Using this nice old style twine that I bought in a market in Chiang Mai, because it just grips really well against itself, much better than any of the modern nylon strings or ropes do. Here's my little friend. It's come along to be in the video while I'm winding my twine up like this. She's a pigeon that we've been feeding since before she could fly. Her nest had a problem and her parents weren't around, so we decided that we'd help her, and she's kind of like one of our dogs now. She just hangs around and expects to be fed and likes attention and comes to help us when we're working in the garden. Close enough to a circle to use for the inside of my reciprocal tower. It is possible that you can use more than one circle in these towers, but it depends on the size of your circle and also the height of your tower. So with the help of my little friend, I've just tied all of the pieces of string to my 12 bamboo poles, and the thin end of the poles is at the top. Now that I've got all the pieces cut to length and tidied and my circle made, I'll start to tie the poles onto the circle. I forgot to put an anchor in for my structure, so I've just done that. It'll hold it steadily. Tying the first pieces on, I'll just tie them loosely. I tie the twine tightly around the pole and loosely onto the circle. This helps when I erect the tower and want to twist it, and it also helps me get the circle at the right height. The first three I'll tie on at about 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. This is because I'm using 12 pieces, so 6 of them will twist in one direction and the other 6 will twist in the opposite direction. Once the structure's erect, I'll tie those joints tightly and then continue to add the other 9 poles. Having tied all the twine to the poles already, it helps the process run much more smoothly and more quickly. And this really helps on a hot day, so I'm not spending too much time in the sun. I'm just stopping to check that I've got the right number of poles twisted in the right direction. That's having 6 leaning one way and the other 6 leaning the other way. And my little helper's still having fun here close by. So there's the last one of my 12 bamboo poles tied around the circle, and now I'm just going to tie some of the other joints just to help strengthen my reciprocal tower, and then later on this afternoon when it's not quite so hot, I'll plant some bean seedlings around the base of it. The soil here is nice and rich, it's got plenty of good compost in it, so I think my beans will do quite well. And having them grow up this structure rather than just up a straight bean pole should make it a nice feature in the garden as well. As I'm always aiming to make the garden look beautiful and add some artistic touch to it, and now a little bit more physics and science than ever before. I hope you've enjoyed the video, I hope you've learned something. Let me know in the comments below if you try making your own reciprocal tower in your garden.